Developing overnight, former President Trump threatening to invoke executive privilege to block the House Select Committee that is investigating the January 6th insurrection from obtaining a wide range of documents that it's demanding from several U.S. government agencies. CNN's Whitney Wild is joining us now. This is a big request. He would have reason to be concerned.
Absolutely. So this request is about 40 pages long. It concerns communications, records that go all the way back to April 2020. And the committee is looking at, again, a wide range of decisions and actions that might have been made by the Trump administration, people within his orbit as well as within the campaign. Here's just a snapshot of some of the people that are possibly subjects in this investigation. None of those names would be a surprise. So Mark Meadows, Trump loyalist Roger Stone, members of the Trump family, none of that is surprising. The breadth of the scope, though, might be surprising and possibly was to the former president. Here's what he said. Unfortunately, this partisan exercise is being performed at the expense of long-standing legal principles of privilege. Executive privilege will be defended. These Democrats have only one tired trick, political theater, and their latest request only reinforces that pathetic reality. Harsh words. It is ultimately now President Biden who will have the ultimate say over whether these White House records are released. We've already seen a few snippets in some of these other document dumps, communications between members of the Trump administration and the Department of Justice. This request spans again, a wide range of actions, which could include what the president knew about the election, efforts to overturn the election, efforts the Trump administration made to remove key players in key agencies and insert Trump loyalists. And then finally, what happened on the day of the riot. Brianna, that includes possibly, well, at least requesting, we don't know if we'll get them, outtakes from the video that he posted telling the rioters to eventually go home.
Here's what they want the ones that didn't get posted.
Right. They want what's on the cutting room floor.
Interesting.
And here, so we had Representative Zoe Lofgren on CNN last night. Here's what she had to say.
We are trying to find out what happened leading up to January 6th, the various elements, the reasoning, who instigated it, why they instigated it, and the like. We want to find out every element of it. And so we've made this request, and this is, as I said, just the beginning.
Well, she's right. So in those document requests, they acknowledge that this is just the start of what will probably be a rolling request for documents. This may set up a lengthy legal battle, and Trump could eventually try to go to court. Again, we know that it's President Biden who has the ultimate say over the White House records and with regards to executive privilege. And Brianna, all of this is supposed to be due by September 9th. So
no problem.
We'll see. We'll see if
that's
what
coming
they get.
up fast. All right, Whitney, thank you so much for that report. Whitney Wild.
All right, joining me now, CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Holding. He's a former federal and state prosecutor. Ellie, I want to talk about this in depth, especially the executive privilege. But let's build up to that point. What has this committee done so far?
Yeah, John, they've done a lot of work so far. The stakes couldn't be higher. Of course, they began last month when they called this hearing with D.C. and Capitol Hill police officers. They gave testimony that was gripping and compelling. But one moment that's really important was when this officer, Daniel Hodges, said this to the committee: "You guys are the only ones we've got to deal with crimes that occur above us. I need you guys, the committee, to address if anyone in power had a role in this." Now, Benny Thompson, representative, who's the committee chair, has said that he's willing to do just that. He said anybody who had a conversation with the White House and officials in the White House while the invasion of the Capitol was going on is directly in the investigative sights of this committee. And Representative Thompson has said he's going to play hardball. I have no reluctance whatsoever in issuing subpoenas for information.
All right, Whitney outlined some of the people this might include, but what's the breadth of this and what types of things are we talking about in terms of evidence?
Really broad. We could see some big names getting subpoenas. If you want to know what happened inside the White House on January 6th, the logical place to start is Donald Trump. That said, is Congress really going to want that circus? I'm doubtful. However, Mark Meadows could get a subpoena. He was in touch with Donald Trump on that day. Jared Kushner could get a subpoena. He was in touch with Meadows and later went to the White House. And this is where it's going to get really interesting. Two members of the House, McCarthy and Jim Jordan, they both talked about that they had conversations with Donald Trump on that day. Also, we know the committee is going to go out and try to get phone records, key communications. Now, this is bringing me back to my prosecutor's days. Let me show you why this is important, because this is what a sample phone record from Verizon will look like. It will tell you what number is making the call, what number is receiving the call, exactly what date, and to the second, what time that call was made. And finally, over here, how many seconds long that call was. So this is going to tell you who was in touch with who in those key moments leading up to and during and after the attack. And then finally, we know that there have been very broad requests to all these federal agencies. The one that's really interesting to me is the National Archives. And you may be thinking, why the National Archives? That's where the parchment copy of the Declaration of Independence is, because that's where the prior White House's records are. They have the Trump White House records.
So, executive privilege.
Yeah.
Former President Trump last night in an angry internet statement says he's going to defend executive privilege. What does that mean? Who actually gets to decide here?
It's such an interesting question. So executive privilege generally means that certain communications between the president and other executive branch officials are privileged, don't have to be turned over to Congress, can be held back. The big question is who gets to exercise it? Is it the current president or is it the president whose records and communications they were? Whitney alluded to this. We don't have a definitive answer, but the better weight of the law and precedent is that it's up to the current president, Joe Biden. So he's going to have to make a decision. Will he invoke executive privilege? Now, you would think, why would he? He would want the committee to have all the information they could. On the other hand, if the House flips in a year and change, they could throw that back in his face. Of course, Donald Trump has said he's going to invoke executive privilege. I think he's going to lose if he tries to fight it in court. But you know what he's going to do? He's going to make it a mess, and he's going to drag it out.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to court one way or the other, which means it won't be decided anytime soon, I would imagine.
Exactly. It's like taking a stick and putting it right in the spokes of the wheel. If Donald Trump can obstruct this by going to court, given his history, I look for him to try to do that.
One other thing, you're talking about executive privilege, protecting conversations within the executive branch. Jim Jordan, other members of Congress, not in the executive branch.
Exactly. That would be an unprecedented expansion of the privilege. They're part of the legislative branch. That should not be privileged. But again, we've seen the Trump administration, the former administration in the past, make ridiculous legal arguments designed just to slow things down.